Welcome to the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast with your host, Lara Waldman, where we talk all things money. Big money, big purpose, big power. Waking up your wealth for heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we are going to be speaking about the daily challenge of the Money Manifestation Mastery process and the daily choice that you must make in order to become a money manifestation master. This work does not happen by accident. This work happens on purpose with your conscious choice to keep stepping into the game of money manifestation mastery. Let's dive in. So now that you have some of the foundational practices and principles of money manifestation mastery, I want to talk about the reality of this work on a day-to-day basis. This work is beautiful. It's incredibly profound, and it is very powerful. And it will transform your life, your financial life, your business, your personal life. It is extraordinary work, and it works, but you have to work it. I live and breathe this work each and every day. I am the continual student of this work, as well as being the teacher and facilitator of this work. I live and breathe it every day. And I want to share some of the personal behind-the-scenes reality of this money manifestation mastery process. First, to share personally with you about my life and my process, and then bring it back to you to help you, support you, really win with this work. So I rarely wake up feeling good. I often experience anxiety, overwhelm, stress. I'll wake up sometimes worried about things going on in my business or going on in my personal life or going on for my clients. I think very deeply about things. I feel very deeply about things. And I spend a lot of time processing challenges, obstacles, problems that are going on both personally and professionally. Life is busy and there's a lot going on. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to be worried about. There's a lot to be anxious about. There's a lot going on. And I don't usually wake up feeling great. I wake up sometimes feeling exhausted or in a fog or triggered, overwhelmed by life circumstances or events in the world, as is very normal and as we all do. But that place, that state of being when I'm anxious or overwhelmed or stressed or ruminating over a problem doesn't help me be effective in my work and doesn't help me to be effective in my life. And I find that that part of me is not the best decision maker. So I work hard every day to create space to work with that part of myself, the part that goes into survival, and step into very consciously and mindfully money manifestation mastery. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about what that looks like for me and how I use this process each and every day. So I have made the conscious decision to lead from my wealth, to take aligned action guided by my heart, my soul, my body's wisdom. That part of me that's in abundance, that part of me that is thriving, that part of me that's in their power. But I'm not naturally in that state most of the time because our brains are not wired that way. If you know anything about neuroscience, you know it's very normal to go into slipstreams of old patterns of behavior and old ways of thinking, old ways of doing things. And we're here to do things differently. So all of that needs to be held. It needs to be witnessed. It needs to be worked with consciously and mindfully, but we don't want to lead from that place. So I choose to not lead from my anxiety. I choose to not lead from my overwhelm. I choose to not lead from that part that gets really stressed. But I need to make space every day to hold it and to be with it, to process it in order to step into my power and lead from that wealth. Step into the money manifestation master within, which I believe we all have. It's a skill and it's a discipline. So every day I make the choice to face the challenges that are coming up, the stress, the difficulties, and choose to go deeper under it, around it, work with it, and consciously step into my power and that leader within, that wealthy wisdom within. What's hard about it is that your brain, your default patterns and programs will want to do anything to avoid dropping in and connecting into a deeper level. The triggers that come up, the stories that you are telling yourself are very well-trodden pathways, and they're very convincing. When I'm in anxiety or overwhelm, the stories that my brain are telling me feel very, very real. And I have learned not to listen to them. I'm aware of them, and I have learned to hold space to calm that down. So this is truly a daily practice. It is a discipline, and it requires you to step into the challenge each and every day of making a conscious choice to lead from your wealth, to step into your mastery level. And this is what I do each and every day. Now, in this podcast so far, I've shared the daily practice that I recommend, lots of tools and techniques. There's a money manifestation meditation that you can tap into. So there's lots of resources for you already within this podcast for you to tap into. The wealthy wisdom within the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast is here for you. And that's what it's designed for, to support you with your daily practice. And I thought I'd share what I love to do currently is to make sure I'm creating space to release, to let go. This is like doing a daily dump, a daily vomit of releasing toxins, those mental toxins, those emotional toxins, and holding a space for this part to process. What I learned through my years of being a healer is that when we are held in a safe space of acceptance and given space to simply breathe and be, your body naturally knows how to release and let go, and it wants to. And it's important that you create that space for yourself. So the first thing I do, if I'm not feeling great, is process. I like to journal. I like to journal out all the toxic thoughts or feelings that are there. Anything that's worrying me, stressing me, agitating me, I get it all out, vomit it out, poop it out, release in the morning, and process that way. And just name it. Name what's here, but not get stuck in it, not get stuck in the story of it, but put it out onto paper. So get it out from my brain and get it onto paper so it can start to release. I don't identify with it. I don't let it lead my life, but I just create a space to listen so it can release, so I can let it go. And depending on what's going on, sometimes I can grip on or cling on for a little bit longer than I would like because there is fear. There's a need to control. There's a need to cling on and contract against what's happening. And that is a very normal default reaction when we're stressed or when we're feeling under threat for any reason. So in this process, I'm holding space, being the witness, breathing with what's here, writing it out, naming it with the purpose of giving it space to release. So I don't cling on, attach to it, contract over it, and lead from that place. So I also need to move my body every day. Movement's really, really important. My body always guides me into movement, but I also really love moving my body. That's another very effective way to release stress, tension in the body, is to move the body. So I'll tune in and listen and ask my body how it wants to move, what it wants to do, and I'll make sure I start moving that body again with the intention of releasing as the first step. What I like to do is become aware of how my anxiety or overwhelm or stress is creating my thoughts and the beliefs that are there. So I start to create some separation between myself and that knee-jerk reaction. What are the stories that I'm telling myself? What am I making this mean? How is this creating in my life? And want to give it breathing room so I can start to let it go and open up to a new possibility. So that is step one, is to create space to release the toxins, to release the heaviness, the weight, the parts that don't feel good, in order to create space and open up to the new. And I find with enough time and space, when I name what's here, things start to move. And then there is breathing room for my wealthy wisdom within, or that soul's guidance, that body's wisdom, to start to emerge. Now, this part of me speaks very differently to the survival brain part of me. This part of me has a very different point of view, a very different perspective. And I make the choice to connect deeply to this part of myself each and every day and let this part lead. So I do not make choices from the anxious, stressed, overwhelmed part of me. I make choices from the empowered, abundant, present, connected part of me, that it knows what we need to do and know where we need to go. But this part of me is very confronting to the survival brain part of me, the one that wants to stay in the known and stay in my comfort zone. My soul's wisdom, or that wealthy wisdom within, that deep inner knowing, always wants to take me out of my comfort zone, out of the known into the new, or help me to focus on things that I find really confronting. So every day I have a choice point to make of where I choose to lead from and where I choose to make decisions from. I tap into that wealthy wisdom and get clear on what they are telling me to do, what that part of me is guiding me forward to do. And sometimes it takes my brain time to get on board with that point of view. So every day I'm tuning in and holding space for both. My old hardwiring patterns and programs can sometimes take a little bit of time to adjust and adapt to this new way of thinking or perceiving. So even though my wealthy wisdom may be guiding me to do certain things, sometimes I'm not ready to take that aligned action right away. So I hold space for it. And part of the daily practice is holding space for who I'm becoming, what I'm growing into, what I'm evolving into. And so this is the inner work. This is the inner work that I do every day to prepare myself for the future. So I like to call that wealthy wisdom within, or your empowered part of yourself, that future wealthy you. Who you are when the money is here, who you are when everything you want and desire has already manifest, and letting that part of you lead. What do they have to say? And I find that future wealthy me, or that empowered version of myself, that wealthy wisdom within, thinks and perceives very differently to that survival brain, to my old hardwiring, to the experience that I've had so far in my life. And it's very confronting. So I have a lot of compassion for how scary change can be. And it can feel very uncertain and unknown. And it can really make my nervous system dysregulated. And I need to do a lot of work to hold myself. Say, hold yourself, hold your wealth. I have to hold that part of me that's not so enlightened, that's not so connected, that is desperately trying to protect herself. And hold space for her, calm her down, and then tap into that deep-rooted wisdom within. So eventually, when I hold enough space for myself and I give myself space to process, I start getting clarity. This voice, this inner wisdom starts coming in. I love to tap into this voice through journaling, through meditation. Time out in nature really helps as well. And to tap into that wealthy wisdom and to start to get clarity on the best steps forward. My future wealthy me, the wealthy wisdom within, this empowered part of myself, is very focused, direct, clear, confident. There's no stories, there's no drama. Very clear on what we need to do. So this part of you is the most direct, focused, clear line between where you are now and where you want to be. And that, again, can be very confronting to your current level of thinking or your current level of perception. So we want to feed energy into where you're going and what you want and what's aligned for you. Hold space for your old ways of thinking and perceiving in order to let it go and release. And hold that space for that transition. And if you are deep in this work as I am, you're always going to be in transition because there's always a new level. There's always more. There's always more that you're expanding into. So I've really learned to accept that this is a process. It's a daily process. It's a choice, a daily choice that you need to make consciously and actively each and every day. These things aren't necessarily going to change without your conscious intentions. Some things do, but some things won't because your hardwiring, your old patterns and programs are very well established. So this is part of the discipline and this is part of the practice. And we do this each and every day because what you want is so important to you. Your desired outcome and desired result is what you want, what you long for. And there is a pathway through, but your current level of thinking, your current perception of reality may not be able to see it. So that logical mind may not get it. And that logical mind of yours may have a lot of objections and kickback and contraction against what you want. It may try to control what you want. Mine definitely does. So we then want to hold that part that wants to contract or avoid or control, and the part that wants to stay small in your comfort zone, hold it so that part can relax and let go and create space for that wealthy wisdom that's going to take you forward, but it's also going to take you into the unknown. And that can be very scary. So it's very important to hold yourself through this process each and every day. So now back to you. How can you create space for yourself to do this deep diving, rich work, to help yourself through the daily challenges and obstacles that will come, and help yourself to make an active choice each and every day to keep getting back into the ring, getting back into the game? This requires space. This requires time, patience, kindness, and self-compassion, and the willingness to keep choosing what you want. It's not comfortable, but it is so worth it. And eventually I find that this daily money manifestation mastery practice always calms me down, makes me feel better, makes me feel more connected and grounded, focused, and in flow. So this is also why I choose this work and choose this path, because it brings me home to myself and ultimately to feel better and to be able to create more effectively, to get back into production in my business rather than defaulting into old habits of behavior that will just keep me spinning my wheels and not moving forward. So I would love to know what's landing for you in this conversation. What are your golden nuggets? What are your takeaways? What's pinging for you? I would love to hear. I'd love you to come and send me a message. Let me know how you're finding this podcast. Let me know what you're receiving from it so far. And if you can, I'd greatly appreciate you taking the time to rate this podcast, leave a review. This will really help other people to find this podcast as well and spread the word. Thank you so much for joining me for today's conversation, the daily challenge and choice to becoming a money manifestation master. And if you would like more support to connect deeply and powerfully to your soul, to that wealthy wisdom within, to hold a safe space for the part of you that's anxious and scared, and step into money manifestation mastery, I'd love to invite you to join me for my upcoming wealth retreat. This is completely free, online for big-hearted entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals. And you can book your free ticket by going to my website, larawaldman.com, and putting your name down there. It will be so gorgeous to have this beautiful deep dive with you very soon. I look forward to being with you again next time for another episode of the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast. See you then.